Imagine finding a penny on the street. It's worth exactly 1 cent, no more, no less. But what if I told you that simple copper coin is actually a battleground, a tiny monument to a 3,000-year-old financial war being waged against your savings right now? The value printed on the face of your currency, $1, €1, £1, is merely a promise. The real fight isn't about that promise. It's about what the money is actually made of. This is the story of a law so fundamental to finance that was observed by the ancient Greeks, refined by the Tudors, and remains the single most accurate predictor of economic collapse and hyperinflation in the modern world. This principle is known as Gresham's law, the phenomenon where bad money drives out good. We will explore how Roman emperors used this principle to fund their armies by secretly debasing their coinage, how early Americans unknowingly used it to destroy their own currency during the Revolutionary War, and how, in today's world of paper notes and digital accounts, this ancient law is being applied again, not through copper or silver, but through the silent erosion of your purchasing power. The original sin, debasement in Rome, and the birth of Gresham's law. To find the origins of this inescapable law, we travel back to the Roman Empire. For centuries, the Roman denarius was a gold standard of the Mediterranean, a reliable coin made almost entirely of pure silver. But empires are expensive. Wars must be funded, bureaucracy must be fed, and public works must be built. Instead of raising taxes, a politically explosive move, Roman emperors found a subtler, more insidious way to finance their spending: coin debasement. The process was simple. They would take the silver denarii out of circulation, melt them down, mix the silver with cheaper base metals like copper or tin, and then mint 2, 3, or even 4 new coins from the same original silver content. The new coins had the same face value, the same stamp of the emperor, but dramatically less intrinsic value. Here is where Gresham's law kicks in. If you were a Roman merchant and were given a choice between 2 coins for payment, an old, heavy, pure silver denarius and a new, lighter, copper-filled one, which one would you spend? And which one would you save? Naturally, you would spend the bad money, the debased, cheaper coin, and hoard the good money, the old, pure silver coin. Everyone acted this way simultaneously. The pure silver vanished from circulation. It was melted down or used in trade with foreign entities who demanded the real value. Only the debased, less valuable currency remained to circulate in the domestic economy. The empire had traded its hard currency for soft, initiating a long, terminal spiral of inflation that crippled its economy. From metal to paper, the Revolutionary War crisis. Gresham's law is not limited to precious metals. It applies anytime 2 forms of money with the same face value, but different intrinsic values circulate simultaneously. The early American experience provides a perfect illustration of this during the Revolutionary War. The newly formed Continental Congress needed money to fight the British. Having no established tax authority, they did what desperate governments often do. They printed paper currency, known as Continentals. These notes were a promise of redemption backed by future taxes. At the same time, high-value gold and silver coins were also in circulation, the good money. The inevitable happened. Because the paper Continentals could be printed endlessly, and thus were seen as inherently less reliable than the metallic coins, people used the easily printed bad money for everyday transactions and hoarded the real gold and silver. Soon, the Continental notes lost almost all public trust and became essentially worthless. The phrase, "not worth a Continental," was born. Again, the market's collective action, preferring the sound asset over the weak one, demonstrated that confidence, not decree, governs a currency's fate. The modern application, the crisis of confidence. But what does this ancient mechanism mean in a world dominated by fiat currency? Paper money backed only by government decree. Where's the good money that is being driven out? The answer is found in one of the most destructive economic events of the 21st century, the hyperinflation crisis in Zimbabwe in 2008. Despite the fact that the Zimbabwe dollar was a legally mandated currency, the official bad money, the government's relentless printing caused it to lose value so rapidly that public trust evaporated entirely. In the markets, people stopped using the Zimbabwean currency in favor of more stable foreign currencies, primarily the US dollar and South African rand. In this case, the good money wasn't silver. It was a foreign, stable currency, while the bad money was a local, hyperinflated note. The public, through millions of individual economic choices, effectively bypassed the government's legal tender laws. The state was powerless to enforce its own currency. This forced the government to eventually recognize the de facto use of the U.S. dollar, leading to a desperate economic dollarization. Gresham's law proved that even the might of a modern state cannot force citizens to use a currency they do not trust. A more subtle example is found in the U.S. penny itself. When the cost of the copper and zinc used to manufacture the penny started to rise above its face value of 1 cent, a curious thing happened. People began hoarding the pre-1982 copper pennies, which contained more metal, while only spending the newer, cheaper-to-produce zinc pennies. The U.S. government had to impose stiff penalties, including up to 5 years in prison, to prevent citizens from melting down the older, intrinsically valuable coins. It's a literal battle of good metal driving out bad metal in your pocket. 3 lessons from the shadow of Gresham. Gresham's law teaches us that the market is always smarter than the government. The public will always prioritize saving the asset that best preserves its purchasing power. This leads to 3 crucial modern takeaways. Inflation is a tax on trust. When a government or central bank expands a money supply, which is a modern form of debasement, they are effectively taxing the savings of those who hold the local currency. The public responds by seeking good money, assets like real estate, gold, foreign currencies, or even non-fiat digital assets, to move their wealth out of depreciating local supply. Price controls are futile. As seen in Rome and Zimbabwe, attempts to mandate currency use or set fixed prices will ultimately fail if trust is gone. The public will find a way to circumvent the imposed system, often resulting in parallel black markets or the adoption of alternative currencies. The new good money is portable. Today, you cannot melt down a digital dollar, but you can move it. The modern equivalent of hoarding silver is moving wealth into assets that are outside the easy reach and control of a single sovereign entity. The next great test of Gresham's law will come when the public chooses a decentralized, stable digital asset over a rapidly depreciating central bank digital currency. The ancient law remains clear. No matter how powerful the state, it cannot force you to use money you fundamentally believe will be worth less tomorrow. Your wallet is the last line of defense. The question is, which money are you saving and which money are you spending? The history of wealth is a story of repeating financial cycles. If this deep dive into one of finance's most enduring principles helped you see your own wallet differently, please like and subscribe to join us as we continue to explore the epic failures and triumphs of financial history. And tell me in the comments, what asset are you currently treating as the good money in your life?